Well, hello there, fellow travelers, or perhaps those of you just dreaming about hitting the open road. It's Mark here, and Karen's just outside, wrestling with the camp chairs, trying to get them to face the sunset just so. You know, it's funny the things you learn about a person when you shrink your world down to roughly 70 square feet and put it on wheels. We've been doing this van life thing for, what is it now, love? 5 years? 6. Time blurs in the best possible way out here. Before we traded our house keys for ignition keys, I thought I knew Karen pretty well. 40 years of marriage, you figure you've seen all the chapters, right? But this life, this glorious, unpredictable, sometimes maddeningly compact life, has shown me new pages, whole new volumes, in the woman I share this adventure with. The sun's just beginning to dip behind those jagged peaks in the distance. We're somewhere in the Dolomites tonight, a little pull-off we found that feels like the edge of the world. The air is crisp, smells of pine and damp earth, and the only sound is the gentle hiss of our little stove as I get the water boiling for our evening tea. Karen finally gets the second chair angled perfectly. Success, she calls out, her voice carrying that familiar lilt of satisfaction I've come to adore even more out here. It's in these quiet moments, the ones between the grand vistas and the inevitable, where did I put the blasted spanner, dramas, that the real revelations happen. This isn't just about seeing the world, it's been about seeing each other, truly seeing each other, perhaps for the first time in a long, long while, stripped of all the everyday distractions of a life we willingly left behind. So, I thought today, or rather, tonight, as the stars begin to prick the darkening sky, I'd share a few things this life on wheels has taught me about Karen, and by extension, about our marriage. It's not always been smooth sailing, or smooth driving, as the case may be. There have been breakdowns, both mechanical and, occasionally, emotional. But every bump in the road, every wrong turn, every leaky faucet in a downpour has, in its own way, polished the lens through which I see her. And let me tell you, the view is pretty spectacular. One of the first things that truly struck me, maybe a few months into our grand European tour, our first big leap after selling the house, was Karen's incredible, almost unnerving, calmness in the face of chaos. Back in our old life, a misplaced bill could send ripples of stress through the household. A delayed contractor. Minor panic. But here, picture this, we were navigating a ridiculously narrow, winding road somewhere in rural France. The kind of road that makes you question the sanity of whoever paved it, if paved is even the right word. Our GPS, affectionately nicknamed the Optimist for its often wildly inaccurate time estimates, had led us astray. Again. We were wedged, quite literally, between a crumbling stone wall and a rather sheer drop into a vineyard that looked lovely from a distance but terrifyingly close up. I was, to put it mildly, having a moment. Sweat was beading on my forehead, my knuckles were white on the steering wheel, and I'm pretty sure I was muttering things that would make a sailor blush. Karen, on the other hand, was looking at the map, an actual paper map, because sometimes the optimist just gives up the ghost. She hummed a little tune, completely unfazed. "All right, darling," she said, her voice as calm as a summer pond. "If you can just reverse about, 3 feet without taking out that medieval wall or plunging us into next year's Beaujolais, I think I see a little turnoff just ahead that might, just might, be wide enough for a very small donkey." Her ability to find humor, or at least a practical solution, when I'm about to lose my composure, was a revelation. I'd always known she was strong, but this was a different kind of strength. It wasn't the grit your teeth and bear it kind, but a fluid, adaptable resilience. She'd take a deep breath, assess the situation, and then, more often than not, make a joke that would deflate my anxiety like a punctured tire. "Well," she'd say, peering at a particularly ominous-looking engine warning light, "at least it's a pretty color," or, when we realized we'd bought salt instead of sugar in a country where our language skills were limited to "hello" and "thank you," she'd just shrug and say, "Tonight, we experiment with savory porridge. It'll be an adventure for the taste buds." That incident on the French lane became a sort of benchmark. I started noticing it more and more. The time our auxiliary battery died in the middle of a Spanish heatwave, leaving us without fan or fridge. I was ready to call it quits, find the nearest air-conditioned hotel, and sulk. Karen, however, rooted through our emergency supplies, found a couple of those handheld paper fans we'd bought as souvenirs, and declared it siesta time, old school style. She then proceeded to rig up a surprisingly effective cooler using a wet towel and the breeze from the open window. We survived, and somehow, it became a fond memory, a testament to her ingenuity rather than a disaster story. It was a minor turning point for me, realizing that her coping mechanisms were not just different from mine, but often far more effective. She didn't fight the chaos, she danced with it. Then there's her unexpected practicality, a side of her I'd honestly never fully appreciated. In our old life, I was the designated fixer-upper, the one who dealt with leaky taps and wobbly shelves. Karen, I thought, was more inclined towards the aesthetic side of things. How wrong I was. Living in a van means everyone becomes a mechanic, a plumber, an electrician, and a logistics expert, often all before breakfast. And Karen? She took to it like a duck to water. I remember one particularly wet afternoon in Scotland. We were parked by a loch, the rain hammering down on the roof so hard it sounded like a drum solo. Suddenly, a drip. Then another. Right over the tiny hob where I was attempting to make soup. My solution was to strategically place saucepans. Karen's was to grab her head torch, a tube of sealant, and announce, "Right, I'm going up top." In this weather? Are you mad? I asked, picturing her slipping off the wet roof into the murky depths of the loch. She just grinned, already pulling on her waterproofs. Someone's got to, love. And your grumbling isn't going to plug the hole. 10 minutes later, soaked to the bone but triumphant, she was back inside, the dripping stopped. She'd found a minuscule crack around the solar panel fitting and sealed it with the precision of a surgeon. I was gobsmacked. This was the woman who once called a handyman to change a light bulb because she didn't like heights. Turns out, the confines of a van roof in a Scottish downpour are less intimidating than a stepladder in a well-lit hallway. Or perhaps, the necessity of the situation just unlocked a hidden skill set. That moment was an aha moment for me. It wasn't just about her fixing the leak. It was about her willingness to tackle the problem head-on, to get her hands dirty, quite literally. We started working more as a team on these things. If the water pump played up, we'd troubleshoot it together, me with my basic understanding of mechanics, her with her surprisingly logical approach and smaller hands that could reach into awkward spaces I couldn't. We learned to read wiring diagrams together, deciphering the hieroglyphics that controlled our little home's lifeblood. Okay, she'd say, tracing a line with her finger, so if this blue wire isn't talking to that red wire, then the magic smoke stays in, right? Her ability to simplify complex problems, often with a touch of whimsy, made the challenges less daunting. We'd spend hours sometimes, huddled over a sputtering engine part or a malfunctioning gadget, armed with YouTube tutorials and a shared determination. And the satisfaction when we finally fixed something? Immense. It was a victory shared, a problem solved not by me or her, but by us. This collaborative problem solving, born out of necessity, has become one of the cornerstones of our life on the road, and by extension, our marriage. There's no room for ego when you're trying to level the van on a ridiculously sloped campsite using only a few bits of wood and a spirit level app that keeps crashing. You rely on each other's judgment, each other's strengths. I might be better at the heavy lifting, but Karen has an uncanny eye for judging an incline. Just a smidge more on your side, dear, she'll direct from outside, hands on hips, looking like a seasoned surveyor. And I've learned to trust that smidge implicitly. It's usually spot on. It's these small, shared efforts, these daily negotiations of space and tasks, that build a different kind of intimacy, a practical, hands-on partnership that feels incredibly robust. But it's not all about fixing things and navigating tight spots. Van life has also revealed a depth to Karen's appreciation for the simple, quiet moments that I, in my rush through our previous life, often overlooked. I was always focused on the next thing, the next achievement, the next deadline. Karen, I now realize, has always had this incredible capacity to just be. I think the peak realization of this came not in a moment of crisis, but in a moment of profound peace. We were parked in a forest in Germany's Black Forest. It had been a long driving day, and we were both a bit weary. We'd had a simple dinner of bread, cheese, and some local sausage, and as dusk settled, the forest around us came alive with the sounds of unseen creatures. I was already thinking about the route for the next day, checking the weather forecast on my phone. Karen, however, was just sitting on the van step, a mug of tea cradled in her hands, gazing into the trees. She wasn't saying anything, just looking, listening. There was such a serene expression on her face, a quiet joy that seemed to emanate from her. I put my phone down and just watched her for a moment. And it hit me, this is what she truly loves. Not just the grand destinations, the famous landmarks, but these small, unscripted moments of connection with the world around her. The way the light filtered through the leaves, the sound of a distant owl, the scent of pine needles underfoot. What are you thinking about? I asked softly, not wanting to break the spell. She turned to me, her eyes shining. Just this, she said, with a gentle wave of her hand that encompassed the darkening forest, the van, us. Isn't it amazing, Mark? That we get to do this? That this is our life now? There was no grand pronouncement, no dramatic revelation, but in that quiet moment, I saw the depth of her contentment, her gratitude. It wasn't a fleeting happiness, it was a deep-seated joy in the very fabric of this lifestyle. And I realized that her ability to find beauty and peace in these simple things was a gift, not just to herself, but to me. She teaches me, often without saying a word, to slow down, to look, to listen, to appreciate the now instead of constantly striving for the next. I felt this surge of warmth, of profound love for this woman who could find such richness in a quiet evening in the woods. We didn't need a five-star restaurant or a Broadway show, we had the stars above and the forest around us, and for Karen, that was more than enough. It was a shared moment of quiet understanding, a deeper layer of connection forged in the stillness. That evening, as we settled into our cozy bed, the sounds of the forest a lullaby, I found myself reflecting. This journey wasn't just about the miles we covered, but the internal landscapes we were navigating within each other. Karen's calm resilience, her surprising practicality, her profound appreciation for the simple, these weren't new traits, I suppose, but van life had magnified them, brought them into sharp focus, free from the clutter of our old routines. You know, I said into the darkness, you're really good at this van life thing. She chuckled softly. You're not so bad yourself, Mr. Grumbles when the GPS is wrong. No, seriously, I continued. That leak today, in Scotland. I was genuinely impressed. And how you handled that crazy road in France. You're amazing. She was quiet for a moment. Then she reached out and took my hand. We're amazing, Mark. We do it together. That's what makes it work. And she was right. It's the we that's the magic ingredient. This lifestyle, living in such close proximity, facing challenges and beauty side by side, day in and day out, has a way of stripping away pretenses. You can't hide your quirks, your fears, or your morning grumps in 70 square feet. But you also can't hide your strengths, your joys, your capacity for love and patience. It's all laid bare. And in that vulnerability, we found a new level of honesty, a deeper acceptance of each other, flaws and all. Or perhaps, what I once might have considered a flaw, I now see as just another interesting facet of the woman I love. Her occasional insistence on collecting just one more pebble from a beach, which means our van probably weighs half a ton more than it should, used to mildly irritate me. Now, I just smile and help her find a particularly smooth one. It's part of her, part of our shared story. What has van life truly taught me about Karen? It's taught me that her spirit is even more adventurous than I ever knew. I remember when we first talked about this, selling the house, buying a van. I was full of doubts, anxieties about security, about comfort, about what people would think. Karen was the one who kept the dream alive, who researched vans, who mapped out potential routes with infectious enthusiasm. She saw the freedom, the possibility, when I was still bogged down in the what-ifs. She has this quiet courage, this unwavering belief in the good of the journey. She's not reckless, far from it, but she's brave in a way that continues to inspire me. The bravery to embrace uncertainty, to trade the predictable for the unknown, to truly live. It's also shown me her incredible adaptability. Karen, who loved her creature comforts, her perfectly organized kitchen, her spacious garden. Now, her kitchen is a 2-burner hob and a tiny sink. Her garden is whatever landscape we happen to be parked in. And she's thrived. She's learned to cook gourmet meals in a space smaller than our old pantry. She's found joy in identifying wildflowers by the roadside instead of tending roses. She's embraced the minimalism, finding a lightness in owning less and experiencing more. It's amazing how little you actually need, isn't it? She often says, usually while expertly stowing away our belongings into some ingenious storage compartment she's devised. This isn't just about coping, it's about genuinely flourishing in a different environment. This journey has shown her, and me, that our happiness isn't tied to a place or possessions, but to our mindset, our experiences, and most importantly, to each other. This life after 50, this decision to not just retire but to refire, to seek out new horizons, has been the greatest gift to our marriage. It's like we've been given a second chance to get to know each other, away from the roles and routines that had defined us for so long. She's not just my wife or the mother of our children, who are now grown and off on their own adventures, thankfully cheering us on from afar. She's Karen, my co-pilot, my chief navigator, even when she's using a map upside down, which has happened, leading to some hilariously scenic detours, my emergency sealant expert, my fellow sunset enthusiast, my best friend. The challenges are real, don't get me wrong. There are days when the small space feels too small, when we disagree on where to go next, or when something expensive breaks and throws our budget into a tailspin. But even those moments have become part of the richness of the experience. Learning to navigate disagreements when you can't exactly storm off to another room, because there isn't another room, teaches you a new level of communication, of compromise. We've learned to talk things through, really talk, with a rawness and honesty that perhaps we shied away from in our bigger house with more escape routes. We've learned that saying, "I'm sorry," or "you were right," comes a lot easier when your shared goal is a happy journey. So, what's the key takeaway from all this rambling, as the last sliver of sun disappears and the first stars pop out with startling clarity? It's that Karen is, quite simply, remarkable. And our marriage, tested and tempered by the open road, by shared sunrises in remote valleys and collaborative efforts to unstick ourselves from muddy fields, is stronger, deeper, and more joyful than I ever imagined it could be at this stage of our lives. This isn't just a travelogue, it's a love story, rediscovered 1 mile at a time. She has an unwavering ability to find the silver lining, even if it's just the pretty pattern the rain makes on the windscreen. Tomorrow, we'll probably head east, toward Slovenia. Or maybe south, if the weather looks better that way. That's the beauty of it, the not always knowing. But what I do know is that Karen will be beside me, probably humming a tune, ready for whatever the day brings. She'll have the maps ready, a flask of hot tea prepared, and an optimism that could power this van even if the engine decided to take a permanent holiday. She'll spot the hidden waterfall that's not on any tourist trail, charm the local baker into giving us yesterday's bread for a song, and remind me to just breathe and take it all in when I start stressing about a rattling noise from the undercarriage. This life has taught me that true adventure isn't just about the places you go, but who you share them with. And sharing it with Karen, discovering these incredible facets of her personality, her resilience, her humor, her deep well of kindness and her unshakable spirit, has been the greatest adventure of all. It's a continual process of discovery, not just of the world, but of the person you've pledged to spend your life with. And let me tell you, the discoveries just keep getting better. We often joke that we should have done this 20 years ago, but honestly, I think we needed the wisdom, and perhaps the urgency, that comes with being on the other side of 50 to truly appreciate the profound gift this lifestyle, and our partnership within it, really is. It's about squeezing every last drop of joy and experience out of our days. So, thanks for listening to an old vanlifer wax lyrical about his better half. I hope it gives some of you out there a bit of a nudge, whether it's to plan your own adventure, or just to look at your own partner with fresh eyes, to see the undiscovered strengths and beauties that might be hiding in plain sight. This journey has given me a renewed appreciation for the simple act of sharing a life, especially when that life is on wheels and every day is a new page. Karen's calling me now, the tea is perfectly brewed, she says, and the stars are putting on a spectacular show. And she's right, as always. Until next time, keep living fully, keep exploring, and cherish the co-pilots in your own lives. 1 mile, one story, and one amazing Karen at a time.